Marcus Poley over here now.
1 second, I'm finishing this block. What did you
The
need?
gift card mail missing from your route.
Wait, you serious? What cards? What are you even talking about?
Marcus Poley operated without oversight for 11 years as a letter carrier in Eddingate, South Carolina. The 520 families depending on him had no idea what he was doing to their mail.
Controlled test cards that never reached the boxes.
Hang on, that doesn't sound like anything I did. I think you got the wrong carrier.
He would not get the chance to talk his way out. Within 48 hours, agents from the United States Postal Service Office of Inspector General would carry out his computer, his cell phone, his work satchel, and a shoebox of half-redeemed gift cards sitting on his bedroom closet shelf beneath a stack of opened greeting card envelopes addressed to other people's children. 3 years, 520 households, $820,000 in stolen gift cards. The investigation that finished his career started with 1 grandmother and 3 missing birthday cards. Before we get into the rest of this one, I want to ask you something. Think about everything you put into the mail in the last 12 months. Birthday cards, holiday cards, cards with cash, with checks, with gift cards tucked inside. Do you actually know all of them arrived? Drop a yes or no in the comments and tell me how you would even check. And if you are not subscribed yet, do that now. We cover stories like this one every single week, and the next case is already worse than this one. Marcus Donald Poley was born in Florence, South Carolina in 1983. His father, Reginald, ran a one-bay transmission shop on East Palmetto Street that mostly survived on word of mouth, and the kind of customers who paid in cash and did not ask for receipts. His mother, Doris, worked the lunch line at Wallace Gregg Elementary for 26 years before her knees gave out, and the district moved her to a sit-down register job that paid $2 an hour less. The Poley house sat on a corner lot off Sumter Highway. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a screened porch with a box fan in the window. Marcus was the middle child of 3, with an older sister named Crystal and a younger brother named Trevon. He grew up watching the mail truck more than most kids did. His grandmother Pearl lived 2 blocks over and sent him a card with $2 folded inside on every birthday and every Easter from the time he was 4 until the year she died. When he was old enough to read, he would meet the carrier at the curb himself. The carrier's name was Mr. Shepard. Mr. Shepard wore the blue summer uniform, drove the white Grumman LLV with the eagle decal on the door, and sometimes carried Tootsie Rolls in his shirt pocket for the kids on the route. To a 7-year-old black boy in Florence in 1990, Mr. Shepard was about the most respectable man on the block. He had a uniform. He had a federal job. He had a pension. Marcus would later tell investigators, in a moment of unguarded honesty during a president's interview, that he had wanted to be a mail carrier from the time he was 8 years old. He told them he did not change that ambition once in 33 years. He told them he loved the job. That part, by every available account, was true. He graduated from Wilson High School in 2002. He was not a strong student, but his guidance counselor's notes described him as quiet, dependable, eager to please. He worked at a Hardee's on Second Loop Road through senior year and the 2 years after, running the morning biscuit shift for $6.75 an hour. He filled out his first USPS application in 2005. He scored a 91 on the Postal exam, which placed him in the upper quartile of applicants in the Florence district. The hiring freeze that year, and the 4 years of slow attrition that followed, kept him on a waiting list until 2013, when he finally received an offer letter for a casual carrier position at the Eddingate Post Office, 82 miles south of his hometown. He moved to Eddingate in October of 2013 into a rented duplex on Magnolia Court. He was 29 years old. He carried his entire life down Interstate 95 in the bed of his father's Ford F-150 in 3 trips over a weekend. By the following spring, he had been hired full-time as a city carrier and assigned to Route 14, a 520-household residential loop that wound through 3 subdivisions on the south side of Eddingate. His first-year evaluation called him punctual, polite, and well-liked by customers. His third-year evaluation said he consistently demonstrated route knowledge above the station average. In 2017, he received a customer service commendation after a woman on Hickory Bend Drive wrote a letter to the postmaster thanking him for noticing her elderly father had not picked up his mail in 3 days and knocking on the door to check. The old man had fallen in the kitchen the night before. Marcus's knock probably saved his life. The letter was framed and hung in the Eddingate station break room until 2024, when it was quietly removed and replaced with a generic safety poster. He met his wife, Tanya, at a barbecue at his cousin's house in 2015. They married at the Florence County Courthouse in 2017 with 16 people in folding chairs and a reception at a Golden Corral. Their daughter, Aaliyah, was born in 2019. By the time Aaliyah was learning to walk, Marcus had been on Route 14 for 6 years and knew, by sight, every dog and every retired schoolteacher and every kid who waited at the end of the driveway for the mail truck. His colleagues described him as the guy who never called out. He took 2 sick days in his first 8 years. He brought tamales to the break room on Cinco de Mayo because his co-worker Esmeralda had taught him how to make them properly. He coached an under-8 basketball team at the Eddingate YMCA on Saturday mornings. He was, by any reasonable measure, exactly the man his evaluation said he was. Until 2021. To understand what Marcus Pauly did, you have to understand what the United States Postal Service was built to protect, and what it was not. The federal mail system, in the form Americans recognize today, dates to 1775. Its founding logic was the safe and impartial movement of 3 categories of correspondence: personal letters, official government documents, commercial instruments. Commercial instruments meant, primarily, checks. The system's protections, its statutes, its inspection arms, and its carrier training were all built around the assumption that most of the valuable mail in any given carrier's satchel was a named payee instrument. A check made out to John Smith is essentially worthless to anyone whose name is not John Smith. The thief who steals it has to forge an endorsement, walk into a bank, and present identification. The system catches him at the teller window. For 240 years, that assumption held. Then the gift card industry arrived. The first general-purpose prepaid Visa card hit the consumer market in the late 1990s. Within a decade, retail-issued gift cards and prepaid debit cards had become a routine category of mail. By 2020, Americans were spending more than $170 billion a year on gift cards. A significant portion of that volume moved through the mail stream, tucked inside greeting card envelopes from grandmothers and aunts and parents and godparents who wanted to send something nicer than a check, but easier than a wrapped box. The gift card inverted everything the postal system was built around. There was no named payee. There was no endorsement. There was no bank teller checking identification. Possession of the card and possession of the activation code printed on the back beneath a scratch-off panel was the entire chain of redemption. Anyone who held the card could activate it. Anyone who activated it could spend it. The recipient's name on the envelope was decoration. The carriers who handled this mail knew the envelopes on site, greeting card-sized, hand-addressed in looping script, often with return addresses from family members in other states or from retail issuers like Best Buy, Visa, or MasterCard. They were identifiable to anyone who had spent more than a season on the job. And on Route 14 in Eddingate, South Carolina, the man sorting those envelopes every morning at 4:30 was Marcus Pauly. The post office trusted him to identify those envelopes. It trusted him to put them in the case for delivery. It trusted him because every postal carrier swears an oath under 18 U.S.C., Paragraph 1709, that makes the theft of a single piece of mail by a postal employee a federal felony, punishable by up to 5 years for each count. The oath worked for 240 years because, for 240 years, there had been nothing in the average satchel worth 5 years of someone's life. Then the satchels filled up with gift cards. The first envelope, by Pauly's own later admission, was an accident. It was March of 2021. He was sorting mail at his case at 5 in the morning, working through a tray that had come off the night shift's automated sorter. A pink envelope, hand-addressed in cursive, slipped sideways out of his stack and fell behind the divider. He picked it up. He could feel the gift card inside through the paper. The return address was a retailer in Atlanta. He stood there for a moment with it in his hand. He told investigators later that he had thought, very clearly, about putting it back in the tray. He told them he did not know why he didn't. He slid the envelope into the inside pocket of his uniform jacket. He finished sorting the case. He delivered Route 14 that morning, the same way he had delivered it every morning for 7 years. The envelope contained a $100 Bath & Body Works gift card. He used it to buy his wife a gift for her birthday 2 weeks later. She thanked him for it. She did not ask where he had bought it. Nothing happened. No one called the station. No one filed a complaint. The recipient of the original card, a young woman on Hickory Bend Drive, presumably noticed that the card she had been expecting from her aunt had not arrived. She presumably called the aunt. The aunt presumably said she had mailed it. They presumably both shrugged and chalked it up to one of the small disappointments of a system that loses things sometimes. That was the first lesson Marcus Polly learned about gift card theft. The second lesson came in May, Mother's Day. A flat tray of greeting card envelopes hit his case the Friday before the holiday, easily 40 cards thick, half of them visibly carrying gift cards. He took 3. He delivered the rest. He spent the weekend at home with Tanya and a 1.5-year-old Aaliyah, and the nagging feeling that something was supposed to come knocking on his door and never did. By the end of 2021, he had developed what investigators would later describe as a structured selection process. He identified gift card envelopes by 4 criteria: the size and weight of the envelope, the hand-addressed front, the presence of a retail or family return address, and the season. He took no more than 4 or 5 envelopes per delivery day. He took none on Mondays, when station supervisors did random ride-alongs. He took none from addresses where he had previously had customer service interactions, including the elderly man on Hickory Bend Drive whose life he had helped save. He told himself, in some private accounting only he could see, that this made it less personal. He activated the cards in his car during his lunch break, parked at the rear of the Piggly Wiggly on Magnolia Street, where there were no cameras. He used the cards in 3 ways: the retail gift cards, the ones tied to specific stores, he either used himself or sold on a card resale platform called CardSwap at 60 to 80 cents on the dollar. The Visa and MasterCard prepaid cards he treated as cash, spending them on groceries, gas, his daughter's daycare, the lease on a 2019 Dodge Charger he picked up in early 2022, and the down payment on a 3-bedroom ranch house on Springcrest Lane that he and Tanya closed on that summer. He kept what he called, in a text message later recovered by federal agents, the spreadsheet. It was not on his phone or his laptop. It was a yellow legal pad he kept in a fireproof box on the top shelf of his bedroom closet. Each entry listed a date, an envelope description, a face value, and a method of redemption. The handwriting was small and careful. The first entry was dated March 14th, 2021. The last entry was dated November 19th, 2024. By his own count, recorded on that legal pad, he stole 4,127 gift cards over 44 months. Total face value, $820,400. Total cash conversion, after reseller discounts, approximately $580,000. Every single number on that pad was eventually entered into the federal indictment as evidence of a separate act. He delivered the rest of the mail every single day. He waved at the kids. He coached basketball on Saturdays. He did not miss a shift. His 2023 evaluation called him an exemplary representative of the Eddingate station. The evaluation was signed by the postmaster 3 weeks before the controlled mail test began. Her name was Eleanor Whitford. She was 73 years old. She had lived in the same house on Camellia Street in Eddingate since 1971. Her neighbors called her Miss Ellie. She had 3 grandchildren. 2 of them lived in Charleston with her daughter, and 1 lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, with her son. Miss Ellie sent her grandchildren Visa gift cards twice a year. A $200 card for each child on their birthday, mailed in a plain greeting card with a handwritten note. A $200 card for each child for Christmas, mailed in the second week of December. She had been doing it the same way, with the same denomination, for 9 years. She bought the cards at the Buy-Low on Magnolia Street, activated them at the customer service counter, and dropped them in the blue collection box outside the post office on Magnolia on her way home. In December of 2023, her oldest grandchild, a college sophomore at the University of South Carolina, called her 2 days after Christmas to thank her for the card. The card had not arrived. Miss Ellie apologized, said she must have been late getting to the post office, and quietly mailed a replacement at the start of January. In December of 2024, the same call came again, from the same grandchild, and then, 3 days later, from the other 2 grandchildren in Charleston. None of them had received their Christmas cards. 6 cards in 2 years, 6 gift cards, $1,200, all 3 grandchildren in 2 different states, all 3 cards in the same season. Miss Ellie did not chalk it up to the postal system. Miss Ellie chalked it up to something else. On January 4th, 2025, she walked into the Edingate Main Post Office on Magnolia Street, asked to speak with the postmaster, and was told the postmaster was unavailable. She sat in the lobby for 40 minutes. When she was finally given a clerk's window, she filed a formal complaint and asked, by name, for the case to be referred to the United States Postal Service Office of Inspector General. She had looked the office up the night before. She had written down its mailing address and its tip line number on the back of a grocery receipt. She brought with her receipts from Buy-Low, showing the date and time of each gift card purchase. The activation codes from the back of each card she had photocopied before mailing, and a typed letter listing the addresses and zip codes the cards had been mailed to. The clerk later told investigators that he had taken the complaint because he assumed it would be filed and forgotten. He was wrong. Miss Ellie's complaint landed in the Atlanta field office of the USPS OIG on January 7th. It was assigned to a special agent named Reggie Cardwell, who pulled up the address database and discovered that all 6 undelivered cards had been mailed from the same blue collection box on Magnolia Street and addressed to recipients in 3 different cities, but all of whom received their mail through carriers who had originated the mail through the Edingate Main Station. He pulled up the station's incoming OIG complaint log. There were 41 other complaints from the past 18 months. All of them involved undelivered mail. Most of them mentioned gift cards. 29 of them traced back to a single carrier on Route 14. Special Agent Reggie Cardwell did not go to Edingate first. He went to the Atlanta laboratory of a federal contractor that prepared what the USPS OIG calls test mail. Test mail is exactly what it sounds like. A controlled mailing, prepared by investigators, containing identifiable items with monitored characteristics, dropped into the mail stream at a known origin point, and tracked through every stage of the delivery process. In Polly's case, the contractor prepared 24 greeting card envelopes. Each envelope contained a Visa or MasterCard prepaid gift card with a face value between $50 and $300. Each card had been activated and registered to a monitored account before being sealed inside the envelope. Each envelope was hand-addressed to a real, cooperating recipient on Route 14 in cursive script designed to match the demographic profile of typical gift card mail. Each envelope was sealed with adhesive that would record any attempt to open it. The 24 envelopes were dropped into the same blue collection box on Magnolia Street that Miss Ellie used. They were dropped over a 6-week period beginning in late January 2025, at intervals designed to mimic seasonal gift card volume around Valentine's Day. Of the 24 test envelopes, 14 never reached their addressed recipients. Of those 14, the monitored activation codes recorded redemption activity on all 14 within 72 hours of their disappearance from the mail stream. 11 were redeemed at retail locations within a 5-mile radius of Springcrest Lane. 3 were used to fund a card swap account that had been registered in 2022 under a Yahoo email address tied to a phone number Marcus Pauly had given the Edengate post office as his emergency contact. The chain was complete in 6 weeks. Cardwell did not move on him immediately. He took another month to build the rest of the case. He pulled Pauly's bank records from the South State Bank branch on Magnolia. He found patterns of cash deposits in amounts under the $10,000 reporting threshold, made in person at the Magnolia branch every 2 to 3 weeks for 38 consecutive months. He pulled Pauly's card swap account history. The account had processed 2,847 cards between June 2022 and February 2025, with a total transaction volume of $432,000. He pulled Pauly's cell phone records and recovered text messages between Pauly and a man in North Charleston named Devin Greer, who ran a sideline business buying and reselling discounted gift cards. The messages were brief and incriminating. Pauly, October 7, 2023. Got 14 today, mix of Visa and retail, same rate as last time. Greer, October 7th, 2023. Bring 'em Saturday, cash only, no paper. Pauly, December 18th, 2023. Holiday haul is going to be big. I might need a Tuesday drop. Greer, December 18th, 2023. Whenever. Just don't show up if you're being watched. Pauly, December 18th, 2023. I'm not being watched. I'm the one watching. That last message was the one the prosecutor would later read aloud at sentencing. We are about to get to the moment they walked up his driveway. Before we do, I want to say this. Stories like this one do not get covered by mainstream news because the dollar amounts do not seem big enough and the victims do not seem famous enough. A grandmother sending $200 to her grandchild is not a national headline. But what happened to Miss Ellie is happening on routes all over the country, and the only reason you are hearing about it right now is because this channel covers it. If that matters to you, subscribe. The next part of this story is the part that mattered most to her. The morning of March 19th, 2025, was overcast and 61 degrees. Marcus Pauly clocked in at the Edengate main post office at 4:28 in the morning. He sorted his case. He loaded his LLV. He drove out of the station lot at 6:52. He had run approximately 40% of Route 14 by 10:15. At 10:17, an unmarked sedan and 2 USPS OIG investigative vehicles pulled up behind his LLV at the intersection of Springcrest Lane and Hickory Bend Drive. Special Agent Cardwell stepped out of the lead vehicle. He was wearing a blue windbreaker with USPS OIG stitched in yellow across the back. He approached the driver's side of the LLV. Pauly was sitting in the driver's seat with a tray of mail in his lap. His right hand was on the steering wheel. His left hand, when Cardwell got close enough to see, was holding a pink greeting card envelope. Mr. Pauly, I'm Special Agent Cardwell with the Postal Inspector's office. I need you to step out of the vehicle. What's going on? Step out of the vehicle, Mr. Pauly. Hands where I can see them. Am I in trouble? Mr. Pauly, step out of the vehicle. Pauly did not answer. He set the tray of mail on the passenger seat. He looked down at the envelope in his hand. He set it on top of the tray. He stepped out of the LLV. Mr. Pauly, that envelope on the tray, is that mail addressed to a customer on this route? Yes, sir. Was that envelope in your inside jacket pocket before I walked up? There was a long pause. Bystanders later told investigators that Pauly closed his eyes for several seconds before he answered. Yes, sir, it was. Mr. Pauly, you're under arrest for theft of mail by a postal employee. Pauly turned around without being asked. He put his hands behind his back. The handcuffs went on at 10:23 in the morning. He did not ask for a lawyer. He did not say another word for the next 11 minutes until he was in the back seat of the unmarked sedan, and Cardwell asked him if he understood the charges. He nodded once. He did not speak again until his arraignment 2 days later. The pink envelope on the passenger seat contained a $50 Olive Garden gift card addressed to a woman named Adelaide Tarrant, who lived at 4B or 8 Hickory Bend Drive. It was her birthday. The federal grand jury for the District of South Carolina returned a sealed indictment against Marcus Donald Polly on April 8, 2025. The indictment was unsealed at his arraignment 3 days later. It charged him with theft of mail by a postal employee under 18 U.S.C. paragraph 1709, possession of stolen mail under 18 U.S.C. paragraph 1708, access device fraud under 18 U.S.C. paragraph 1029, and wire fraud under 18 U.S.C. paragraph 1343. The wire fraud count carried a maximum penalty of 20 years. He was released on his own recognizance pending trial. His federal employment was suspended without pay the same afternoon and formally terminated the following week. The framed customer service commendation letter that had hung in the Eddingate Station break room for 7 years was taken down by the new postmaster within 48 hours of the arrest and placed in a banker's box in the station's basement, where it remains. His attorney was a Charleston defense lawyer named Lamar Gainey, a former federal public defender who had handled mail fraud cases for 15 years. Gainey met with the assigned assistant United States attorney, a prosecutor named Holton Reese, 4 times between April and July. The 4th meeting produced a plea agreement. Polly pleaded guilty to all 4 counts on August 14, 2025. He waived his right to a trial. He waived his right to appeal the sentence within the agreed range. He agreed to a full restitution order in the face value amount of the stolen cards, $820,400, to be administered through a federal trust for distribution to identifiable victims. The sentencing hearing was held on November 6, 2025, in the federal courthouse on Meeting Street in Charleston. The presiding judge was United States District Judge Eustace Brammer, a Reagan appointee, then 76 years old. 3 victims spoke. The first was a young father whose daughter's 5th birthday card from her grandmother had never arrived in May of 2023. He told the court that his daughter had spent the night of her birthday in the bathroom, crying because she thought her grandmother had forgotten her, and that no amount of explaining afterward had ever fully erased the look she had given him at the dinner table that night. The second was a widow on Camellia Street, whose son had mailed her a $100 restaurant gift card the previous Mother's Day. She told the court, with her hands shaking, that she had spent the entire afternoon of Mother's Day sitting on the front porch waiting for the mail truck, because the gift card was the only thing she had been expecting from her son that year, and she had not wanted to call him to ask about it for fear that asking would seem ungrateful. The third was Miss Ellie. Miss Ellie stood at the lectern in a navy blue dress with a white collar. She did not cry. She did not raise her voice. She read from 3 sheets of paper she had typed herself the night before. She said that what hurt her was not the $1,200. What hurt her was that for 2 years she had believed she had failed her grandchildren. She said she had wondered if she had mailed the cards to the wrong addresses. She said she had wondered if her memory was going. She said she had been ashamed. She looked at Polly when she finished. She did not say